Hey everyone, Tony D with tonight's final hot take. I feel bad for these Antifa guys because I don't see them as being evil. I see them as being sheep. I see them as being the sort of people who just get caught up and they run with it. And I was reminded of that today on Twitter. There was a video going around of a woman from Antifa or Antifa affiliate or whatever. And she was explaining in her short video, probably on TikTok or Twitter, that you could buy this device. And it's this little tiny handheld device you could put on a keychain. And what it's for smashing a windshield. It allows you, it's got like a heavy metal end, and you can crack a windshield with it and hopefully shatter it on the first blow. And then the other end has sort of a hidden blade you could use to cut a seatbelt. And the reason she was showing people that was because the recent run-ins, there's been two now, run-ins with cars and the Antifa BLM protest where people got run over. And the reason she's showing that, I believe, is not so if someone in Antifa is in a car accident, they can quickly get out of the car. It's to, hey, you better have this because the next time somebody runs one of us over, we'll be able to smash out the windows and pull the guy out before he knows what hit him, and then we'll be able to deal with them right on the street. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't understand what sort of behavior she's enabling. She's enabling people to essentially kill someone or severely hurt someone in the middle of the street. And you could go away for a long time. The incident that I talked about in Seattle, where the guy hit two protesters and now one of them died, he is a black man. He is black. And they initially tried to push this in the media as well. It was a white supremacist that ran these people over. No, he was a black guy just working for DoorDash, trying to get by, and all indications to me, it looks like it was just an accident. It was just unfortunate. He somehow got on a road that was closed, was rushing along, saw cars on the road, swerved around them, and boom, suddenly protesters in the middle of the highway. Who would expect it, right? The other incident was sort of a similar accident, except the guy ended up going up on a curb and hitting people, and he's been arrested as well. These Antifa guys, and I keep calling them Antifa idiots for a reason. I mean, it's pretty idiotic to dress up in black and stand on a highway in the middle of the night. I mean, it just is. The whole purpose of a protest is for people to see you and, for your demands or your call for change to be heard. There's no more call for change here. I mean, George Floyd is like way in the distance at this point. Police brutality, that's old news. I mean, today they're calling for everything. This is similar to what would happen in the peace protests that I went to. You'd go show up to the peace protest, let's stop the war, and then the socialists would come in and say, well, yeah, as long as we're stopping the war, let's make sure everybody has a job, gets free housing and college, and universal health care. And you'd just be like, no, I'm not here for all that. I'm just here to stop the war. And that diluted the message, which was why a lot of times anti-war protests were very ineffective. Again, socialists always making problems. Because really, a lot of these people are mentally ill. There, I said it. They're mentally ill. You have to be mentally ill to think you can completely transform the world based on a few ideas you read in the Communist Manifesto or something you heard in college, sort of half paying attention. I mean, this is the United States of America. And if you believe truly that it's very corrupt and there are billionaires and they're extremely powerful and they control people's lives and yada, 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 do you really think you could just flip the table over and restart the game? You can't. You can't do that. You really think there's going to be a revolution of millions of people marching in the streets on your behalf? That was generally the idea Antifa had, that, yeah, working people will rise up and join us. Working people are not rising up to join you. Working people are saying, for God's sakes, re-elect Donald Trump. That's what they're saying. For God's sakes, get these maniacs out of office. We don't want to defund the police. We want to go back to work. We want the Democrats to stop closing everything. My Democratic governor keeps adding states to the list. And if you're from any of those states, you have to stay in quarantine for 14 days if you're coming to New Jersey. It's ridiculous. He wants to add Delaware as one of the states. We're right next to Delaware. Some people commute to Delaware. What are those people supposed to do? They're supposed to go, well, I went to work one day. Guess I have to quarantine myself so I can go to bed. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I believe, again, that it's all political. It's all about getting Donald Trump out of office. And the sad thing is, it's not even going to work. And even if it does, it'll make things so bad. You will have destroyed everything just to get back the reins of power. It's kind of like the ending I had for Game of Thrones. I think the greatest ending to end Game of Thrones would have been that Cersei would have won. And my pitch was that Cersei basically kills everybody at the end. She manages to pit all her foes against each other. The dragons kill people. Jon Snow kills the dragons, but he's mortally wounded. Everybody kills everybody, and the only people left are Cersei and a bunch of the undead. And she wins, but it's a Pyrrhic victory. That's the kind of victory that, at best, the Democrats can hope for. At best, they can hope for this Pyrrhic victory where they win and preside over a country that's falling to pieces, and their solutions make it even worse. Make it even worse. So where's that leave Antifa? Well, I guess a lot of these idiots are going hardcore criminal. I mean, they really are. I saw a kid who was arrested. He already has tattoos up his neck and across his face. That's like hardcore. That is like criminal level of tattoos. Post Malone tattoos. They talked about the guy today. He is a college professor out of, I want to say South Carolina or North Carolina. And he is the leader of Redneck Revolt. And he now admits that he pointed his gun at the guy who ran over that girl in Charlottesville. So keep in mind that the whole incident in Charlottesville was like, oh, this racist. And I believe the driver was with, the right, the hard right. But, they said he just ran her over. It appears to be now that it may have been this guy pointing his gun, his AK-47, at the car that caused him to freak out and step on the gas. Now, I don't think the guy should be let go because of that, but that's definitely a contributing factor. That's definitely mitigation. And certainly that guy with the gun ought to be investigated. Yeah, because you don't point guns at people, especially when they're behind the wheel of a car in the middle of a crowd. That's kind of the wrong message. So, where's this all headed? Well, the good news is the Antifa idiots are very small in number. They're very, very small group of people. But they have enough of them that they can make trouble. They can make trouble for individuals, they can make trouble for politicians, and they take a play out of rules for radicals where they make their movement bigger than it is. This is something that hardcore leftists have been doing for a long time. They make their movement seem very large. And they do have a lot of allies in the media that magnify that magnification even further. So, when you hear the message that there's a real problem with racism in the United States, when you read the media, you get the impression there are millions and millions of just hardcore right racists out there that are just chomping at the bit to take over America and turn it into the most racist state ever. It's just not true. There are plenty of right-wing people that aren't racist, and there are very, very few hardcore racists. That maybe at this time, I think the last count was around 11,000. But if you dilute all the definitions, especially of the term racist, and you expand it to include anybody who disagrees with you, well, yes, then I guess you could say there are millions of racists because, well, you've redefined the word to mean a lot of people. So ultimately, you have to cut through the bull, and that's very hard to do. You have to get off of social media to a certain extent. You have to be very picky with your news sources. Understand that if you're watching television, those news sources are compromised almost completely. There's almost nothing coming out of the regular news that's super reliable, really. It's a general sense that, well, that may have happened. That's the way you should look at news on TV. Well, that might have happened. And the moment they start quoting people, I would question it severely. Same thing with newspapers. Newspapers are totally useless now, in my view. You got to go on the internet, and if you're interested in a story, you're going to have to do some research. You're going to have to do some real research and look at where it happened. Check out the local news from that area. Sometimes that can be good because the local news tends to be more truthful these days, but even that can be compromised as well. It depends on where it is. And, when you have the media saying it's a peaceful protest, and there's a burning building in the shot, and they're throwing stuff at the reporter, you gotta start questioning these things. You have to. And you can't listen to these sheep because they've been caught up in this. This woman doesn't understand. This woman with the windshield breaking seatbelt knife, she doesn't understand the mayhem she's unleashed. It could come back to bite her in the ass. It can come back to kill her. She could end up enabling someone to commit a murder or, be overconfident out there. I mean, a lot of these college kids just don't understand the trouble they're asking for. They're looking at prison. They're looking at being killed. And, at this point, look at the mayhem in Atlanta now. Shootings every night. They're occupying the burned down Wendy's. Why? There's no reason to be there. There's none. The guy's already dead. Occupying Wendy's and the land that they'll probably never rebuild upon, it's not going to help. It's over. It's done. The movement has soiled itself and continues to do so. Yes, you can keep pushing so that anybody who stands up to BLM is prosecuted in some way, but is that what you really want? You're just creating more resentment towards the movement, more resentment to when it comes out nationally that BLM really just took all their money and gave it to the Democrats, and that's going to come out. It's going to come out. That resentment's going to be focused at the Democrats, even more so. That resentment's going to be focused at Antifa. They're not messing around. If you're an Antifa, I urge you to get out. I urge you. Even if you're just messing around with it, get rid of it all. Get rid of everything ever connected to that. Abandon it immediately because the feds are coming and they want heads to mount on the wall, and they'll take yours. Yours is just as good as anyone else's. It doesn't matter that you just were on the internet. It doesn't matter. If you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you said the wrong thing over the phone, you emailed the wrong person, you said the wrong thing, anything they could put together in a conspiracy, they will start putting away groups of you. Your cell, your entire cell will be sucked in. Even if it was only one guy who was out of control. Get out. Get out now. Stop being a sheep.